Hi, my name's Fluffy the Destroyer, and welcome to my channel. I just came across an article, and let me read it to you. New consoles might allow more polygons on the screen, but they don't make good design, says John Romero. A couple of things regarding that article, because it made me react, so that's why I want to talk about that one. Number one, a message to Thomas Luke. What the fuck, dude? You make him look like John Travolta on Battlefield Earth, just like a chubbier version or a fatter version or something. Wrong compared. Don't do that. Just don't put that image there. It makes him look like, oh no, please, that movie must go. Man, it doesn't make any sense. Super bad movie. Anyway, yeah, it's not only about consoles. I think he means, or I mean, because. Let's face it, there's a lot of games out there, even on PC or even mobile, that, well, they don't make good design, like he says. Like, I just got them on the list here, and, like, all the things that went in my mind that when I was, like, thinking about games and why are they fucking bad, yeah, there's a list of things here that keeps repeating even in 2014, that the developers, publishers, or just people who make games use those same things again and again and again. They don't seem to learn. I don't know if it's like memory rejection or something, or is it selective memory or something. Like, you know, when you want to remember something, you remember a specific part of that. I don't know. Or they just suck. I'm not really sure. So, first thing, on the AI, yeah, how many games have you seen that just didn't work out well because of the AI? Either because of your ally or your companion that just, like, I don't know, got stuck on a door, on a wall, or it was just like turning in circles. I'm not going to name any games here, but sometimes, because I just want to be fair here. But I've seen some games, for example, that if you use if you look at the bots, you can actually see them like circling around and around and around. I don't know why. And this is a game made this year. Yeah, it's not that it's really bad. It's just really weird that you see this kind of stuff anyway. Sometimes with first-person shooters, you can see your ally just stuck on a fence or, I don't know, on a wall or something, and sometimes he's blocking your he's blocking your way. What are you doing there? Do something. But no, he just stands there. You might shoot him and nothing happens. It happens a lot. Open world, like, you know, but no, I'm not gonna name any games here again. I almost slipped one. I just want to be fair again, but hey, just open world games. You gotta know a couple of them. The problem with this is that sometimes the world is so big, there's nothing to do in it compared to the content that it gives you. Content in terms of level, like how large is it? It's really weird. And sometimes the quest, the missions, or whatever you want to call them, they seem to be very, very repetitive. There's a big lack of creativity in here, unfortunately. There's also randomly generated content, you know, like games that tells you, well, we're gonna randomly generate content. It happens a lot. Even games that are not even out today, it just promises us a lot of stuff, like a really lot of stuff. I would say 100% of their content is randomly created. Computer generated, or whatever you want to call it. It might work to a certain point. For example, 95% of your work, or sometimes even 95 or 100% of your work, might be created randomly or not by the user. But the problem is this, as I found out. For example, take 10 levels. I might be exaggerating here, but 10 or 20 levels. They might all look differently, but it might be only the colors. Everything might be the same. except the colors. And for the computer, or for the program, they're all different. You might have a level with, I don't know, only a desert, and everything's is almost the same, except for one little hill, placed differently. I might exaggerate here, but I just want you to picture it. That's what computer-generated content is. Well, randomly generated content is. It might work to a certain level. The problem in here is this. There's a lack of creativity. I mean, I wouldn't mind paying for 10 levels that are really different, but you know it's been created by someone, not a computer. You know the creativity. Hell, just look at Metroid. Look at Super Mario Brothers. You know that those levels were created by humans, not computers. Well, to a certain extent. You know the level design, the way it works, like the platform and how it's placed. You know, because sometimes it didn't fucking work. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. There's a level in the sewers, I believe. I won't post a picture or a video of it because I know I'm gonna get content ID here on YouTube. But there's one particular level that you had to jump, and if you didn't do it correctly, which no one did, by the way, or if you did, it was pure luck, not skills, pure luck, then it's just bad design. That's what it is. Hell, bad design. Look at old Nintendo games, and just for the sake of being fair, I'm gonna name some old games. That's it. A bad design, for example. Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is one. There's a lot of them that I just can't remember the names. But in some platforms, you had to be directly on the platform. Like, man, 1 pixel on the left or the right, and you go right down. And you know, if you like pause the picture, you would see that your feet or your foot was actually on the platform, but you still went through. It just didn't work out correctly. For the camera, how many times have you seen a game? And some of them are like really recent, for example, and like the camera doesn't work correctly. Either they're too out, they're too in, or for example, you go around a corner and the camera positions itself to a point that either you can't see the character because, I don't know, like there's a tree in the way, or there's a wall and the other side of the wall is blocking the view because there's a lot of buildings around. All kinds of things happens like that. And sometimes the camera positions itself that happens especially in 3D games, like in first-person shooter, well, third-person shooter especially. And like the way, for example, I just can't remember the game right now, not Mafia, but Max Payne. This one had a particular problem with the camera when you would go into a corner, and because of that corner, you know there would be an enemy, but you didn't see that enemy. And there's a whole lot of games that had this problem. You go to a corner, you want to look over that corner, you can't. Sometimes you would get your camera to your, well, it would be stuck on your character, but the way the camera was positioned, you would look at the wall. There were enemies just in front of you, but the way the camera is positioned, you can't see them. You can't control the camera as well. This is a really big problem. Even today, sometimes you still get that problem. Less than before, but you still have this problem with the camera sometimes. Either because it just gets wonky, and it's not all the time, but a lot of them. For the quests, this could be in action games and, well, especially RPGs. They have this really big problem right now, especially in MMOs. In a couple of videos, if not, just go see them with my old videos. MMOs have this little problem here that has the same repetitive quests. No matter what class you get, or you choose, or you get, you always seem to have the same quests. They're all... It doesn't make sense with the story as well. For example, you're a warrior, or you're soon to be about warrior, and for some reason, there's an old woman that needs to get her sheeps back to her. Just an example. But you get the point, you're a warrior that's supposed to kill people or monsters or demons or whatever, and you do chores. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Number one, it's the same thing. You might choose another class, you might get the same type of quests. You get the same experience. Why do you think, or why does anyone think this is what I want anymore? 10, 15 years in the past, I would say yes. It would be to a certain extent, because like MMOs and RPGs were, well, into a multiplayer level, I would say. It was kind of new. A lot of people were at the same place and they were doing quests all together. I get that. I dig it. We're in 2014 now. It doesn't work anymore. Or it's not supposed to work. It's supposed to be dynamic, or at least not static as it is right now. People seem to love it. I don't know why. I don't. I never, to be honest, like at first in a couple of years, like World of Warcraft type of years when it first came out, I dig it. Okay, but then it got really boring. Couple of moments and then boom. Another game gets out, other different types of quests, different stories, but the same thing. Ridiculous query, like you're level 40, level 50, 70, 90 or something, or even 200, and you're still doing that quest that she tells you, or he tells you, go fetch that herb at that place. I needed to cure someone. Do it yourself. I'm here to kill people. Like I've killed, I don't know, like a dragon or something. I've killed an entire army. Why do you want me to get your quest? Well, your herb. Well, first of all, it just doesn't make sense to the story, and because of my character, the development of the character, and through the quest, it's boring. Do something, I don't know, do something more, like immersive. You might think of EVE Online's Epic Art Quests, missions, I mean. Those are the only, I would say, stories that right now that is very immersive. Very, I would say, I'm trying to remember the stories, but it's hard to say. I just can't remember the stories, but I know that in EVE Online, it's not renowned for having a lot of good missions, well, story missions, because once you know, like a couple of them, you know them all. I mean, some people I've seen some people, and to a certain extent myself, I know almost all of them by heart. I played EVE Online for a very long time, and the stories, when you do a mission, you activate, you go to a certain waypoint, well, in space, and once you go there, you complete the quest. You know them by heart. You know who to attack, what group to attack, what to get, what to do exactly. Do that 1,000 times, and trust me, it becomes a chore. It's not even playing anymore. Quests are like that today. Missions, quests, call them whatever you like. It's like that. It's really boring to a certain extent. I swear to you, if you play, for example, I'm not really sure about that one because it's not out yet, but there are some games that are not even out yet that I want to give names, but I'm not, but they might have the same type of stories. Same boring stories. Someone wants to kill you. You gotta kill them. It's a really boring story. It's like there's a lot of developers or publishers out there that are using the same theme. Revenge, for example, there's a certain game that got out this year. It uses the same theme. The only thing that I loved about this story is that it's, I would say, morally, I hope I'm saying this the right way. It's morally challenging to a point that when you look and you hear the story, you know something's wrong because you're not used to this. It's based on revenge, and because on revenge, you gotta kill people, and you're the protagonist, but you're killing people, like free violence here. You kill people because of revenge. Of all things that you're not supposed to tell, I would say what? Young adults to a certain point? Like, good and bad things in life. Like, good things don't kill, bad things you kill someone. the basic stuff. In this game, it doesn't care. You're a protagonist. Something happened to someone that you know. You go on a rampage. You kill. There's no stopping you. Nothing is stopping you from whatever you want to do to get from point A to point B. Well, story-wise, from the start to finish. You might know what the game is, but I'm not going to go in details, you know, for the sake of it, for being fair. It's, except for that, it's almost the same thing. Look at movies, for example. It's not related to games, but look at movies today. Almost all movies are rebooted or remakes. They're all remakes or reboots. How many fucking times did I see Spider-Man? Show me something new. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Hey, fuck your birth. Show me something like, I don't know, Krang, if that's his name, if I remember correctly, or Dimension X or something. Don't show me their birth. Or Batman. How many times do I have to see Batman? Show me something else. I don't care what your views are depending on his source or his origin. Something new and fresh. Stop with the revenge theme or something. Oh, it pisses me off. Like, you pay $20, $15, or $10 from a movie to a game, or even $60, $90 sometimes if you count the DLC today. It's all the same thing with a different graphic theme on it. It pisses me off. It's the same thing. It's the same type of stories. The same type of protagonists. And up to a point, I know a lot of people did this, but when you play a game, you know what's going to happen next. Or you have a big general idea of what's going to happen next. It pisses me off. It's a real game breaker. There's some games out there that I've stopped playing because of that. Like, I've played a game to a certain extent, and I just told myself, well, this is supposed to happen, or this is what's supposed to happen, and guess what? It did. Exactly, or I would say approximately enough that there wasn't any surprise here. I wasn't satisfied with my curiosity wasn't satisfied, and that pisses me off. Why do you want to see a movie, or why do you want to play a game that you played 4 times already? So, do the link here. Why do I want to play a game that I want to play, like pay 30, 60 bucks here, that I've already played in the past, but has a different theme, a different graphic settings, and everything's different, but the story is the same? Doesn't make sense to me. I don't like it. I never will. Man. And for the PvP, for example, this is across all types of games, from action to first-person shooters to RPGs. It seemed, well, let's start with the RPGs here, for example, and I account RPGs with MMOs all in the same because they all seem to have the same freaking thing now. Not all of them. Of course, I know that. It's just the way that they used to do. Well, they're doing the PvP right now. It's all about the arena. I don't know why. It seems, well, I don't know why. I may seem to know why. Maybe it's like a very simple way to do PvP. Just a lack of effort, a lack of work, a lack of creativity, and it's I might say what to a certain extent. Less chance to get bugs and glitches, for example. You put in a 10 versus 10 or 20 versus 20 arena, and what you have is a working PvP system that has existed for the last 20 years. I hate that. I personally hate that. You want to put it in your game? Fine. Good. Spice it up. It doesn't have much, and you might do something really good here. What happened to the open world PvP? For example, you open it to a large area, put in a couple of buildings. I'm talking about RPG, like MMORPGs here, for example. Open world PvP, a couple of regions that you have to capture, and put in a whole new PvP system in it. As in, you gotta capture the building, or look at, for example, if I'm correct here, because it's been a long time since I haven't looked at that game, but there's the Elder Scrolls Online, for example, their PvP. I know that you have to capture buildings and all, and the fights are massive. Or another example that I know very well is PlanetSide 2. Open world maps, very large maps, a couple of regions, well, a whole lot of regions if you ask me. And there's always this post or this base or this, well, there's a building in there that you have to capture. The fights can go above 200 people in one place. I haven't seen that in any other game yet. And sometimes even more than 200 people. EVE Online, for example, in one solar system, in one place, in one specific place, 2,000 people in your screen fighting. You have to call PvP, well, send an email telling them specifically at that region, at that time, at that moment, we will have a fight, or there's a possibility of having a fight. So, when you do that, what CCP will do is they'll redirect all of their resources or a big portion of their network infrastructure to be concentrated at that specific place, so the server doesn't break. That's how epic PvP is in EVE Online. Do you see it anywhere else? Like in, I don't know, in a very popular game, for example, Call of Duty. They still use 32 versus 32. It might work for a lot of people. I mean, there's, what, 20, 40,000 people, depending on the game. I think Battlefield 3 is 40,000, and Battlefield 2, last time I checked, was 20,000 people on their servers. And it's always 32 versus, like, or 60, well, 64 players maximum, or 32 players maximum in some servers, like a higher number or lower number, so. And it always seems to be like that. My point is, Arena seems to work, but it's not enough today. And some developers are still doing it today. Lack of work, lack of effort. I don't know why. There's also the point of multiplayer spawn. There's a game that got out, I would say a couple of years back, but it's still very popular today. There's a whole lot of other ones as well. There's a certain design in a game that when you play a multiplayer game, especially in PvP, don't use fixed spawns. It doesn't work. It's also subject to to spawn camping, in a way that whenever or wherever you spawn, if the enemy knows where you're going to spawn because there's a fixed number, they will wait for you there. You might give an invisibility for a couple of seconds. If 10 people are waiting for you over there, you will die. It doesn't matter. This is just bad design, but people still, today, they still do it. They still design their games that way, which is, it really sucks. And for the controls. Alright, let me show you here. The controls. This is something I see here. Like, for example, you see a lot of games that uses 2 actions for one key, or vice versa, or they just don't have enough. It looks like for computer games, we don't have enough keys. I know it's like, it's not the right direction here, but you see that? You see that? I got more than 6 buttons on that fucking thing. Use it. When you make a game, or the developer makes a game, for some reason, in some cases, not all, they seem to just, they have the distinct lack of notion that I have a keyboard. And some of them dare not to rebind my keys. What the fuck? I got a keyboard, for God's sake. I got like over 100 keys. And if you didn't notice, I also got macros. I can't program the damn thing to do a lot of stuff. Use it. Man, it pisses me off. Little things sometimes that pisses you off a lot. Like, you might have the biggest mistake in front of your eyes. You might say to yourself, well, okay, I can forgive it. This, the controls, it pisses me off. But I do have to say that for the developer to find a way to make it work, like 2 actions with 1 button on the coding side, I have to give him 1 point for that. It is very creative sometimes. There's also for the story, like sometimes it's just weak writing. I've told about this a couple of minutes ago, but it's weak writing. They still use the same themes over and over and over, or it's the same thing. Someone killed I don't know, someone like a relative, story-wise, and you want to kill him, and you can see the whole story in front of you, like it's all written in front of you. You didn't see it, you didn't play it, you know what's going to happen. It's the same thing over and over. Nothing changes. It's like, I don't know what to say about this. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. And for the sake of it, it's not a really old game, but I will tell it. Like Right to Hell Retribution. It looks like a good story, but it's not well put together. Like the cutscenes are all broken. It just doesn't make sense. And sometimes, because of the story, you also got voice acting on top. And add those two together, and it creates it's hell. For example, Guys of the Wolf, bad voice acting. One line a lot of characters uses in that game, like the guards, for example. I'll just have a map. He always says that. Or there's another line sometimes he's always going to say. Adventure game suffers from this, from the old ones to the new ones as well, for example. You just for shits and giggles sometimes I would talk to a character until it pisses him off. Like I would say like I go talk to a character over and over and over repetitively until I know what's going on. What's the reaction? What did the developer did? A lot of times it didn't do anything. It just repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. Nothing fresh and new happens. Nothing funny happens. Nothing creative happens. With first-person shooters as well, you just press E. Well, most of the time it's C for the use key. You go to a character and you press E until he gets, I don't know. You tell him you're supposed to, I don't know, you're supposed to get an item. For example, so you press E, gives you the item. What happens afterward if I press E? Nothing happens. It's weak. Surprise me. I don't know, just surprise me. Be funny, or, I don't know, be creative. Do something. And bad design, it's like this over and over again. Even in 2014, it's still bad. It's like bad design. You might get high polygons and high graphics like for the PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, or the R9 295X graphic card, or a GTX 700, whatever. You might use the Unreal Engine 4, the whatever engine you want to use. In the core, like, at the heart of it, it's the game. 95% of it. Like, there's 5% I count for the graphics. The rest all goes into gameplay. Because let's face it, I'm here to look at the game. Yes, that's true. I always look at it. It's always there. But the thing that I notice the most it's the design, the level design, the characters, the little things behind it, the interaction, most of all the interaction. In the article it tells about Minecraft. You know, for some reason he's right about that. Minecraft is a really shitty game. Well, graphically shitty game. It's not pretty. It's not ugly. It's fugly. It's really ugly. But at the core, I would play any day that game right now. I would like bring my friends on the internet. I would make a server and play with them. That's how fun the game is. You go dig up. You create some items like an axe, a pickaxe. You get yourself up and ready for, you do a house, for example. You go on inside the earth, you just dig and you dig and you dig. Then you find a lot of stuff. It's really fun. You get a whole new, different type of game every time you play. Different type of dungeons. It's always fresh. There's always like a spider waiting for you. There's always a zombie waiting outside. You don't know where, but it's there. There's always something new happening. That's why it's fun. And when you take games like the biggest games, or even the ones that are coming, some of them I can already tell you, they're not going to be fun. They might be at first for a couple of hours, 5, 10, 15, and they're going to become boring. Boring enough that you're going to uninstall them or put your console away and you're not going to play them anymore. Yeah, just think about that. How many times have you played a game today, in 2014 or 2010 and up, that you still play today? Like 1,000 hours later. Do you play a game like that today? I do. And it's not because I'm easily entertained. No, I always I'm always cynical or something. It's just beyond me. I have to shit at everything. I have to critic everything. And it's not easy to entertain me. I mean, I have a lot of games. I just play them like a couple of times. I do a review of it, and I just put them away because they're not fun. Not enough to make them stay in my computer and play them. That's how I am. Because the design in it, not the graphics, the design is really shitty. The graphics are up to par to our year. Like in 2014, I can tell you that the graphics are pretty good. Unfortunately, it's the gameplay or the design or the level design, the voice acting, the story, the PvP, everything that's like behind it. It sucks. It can't keep up with today. It looks like companies today, like Electronic Arts, Ubisoft of all things, and a lot of others, BioWare of all things, and a lot of others are still using the same recipes. Console publishers are especially guilty of this because they have to work with Sony or Microsoft or any other console manufacturers. And the thing is, they have to use a recipe because it has to work. The amount of money they put to develop a game on consoles is just amazing. It's really high. And there's no room for mistakes. There's no room for errors here. So they're not going to put a game they know that it's just not going to work if the game is not good enough, for example. So they have to use a recipe that works already. I would say that's why we get games that have bad design but really great graphics, for example. Hey, so what do y'all think about the level design? Well, not the level but the design, but the game design. Is there a specific game that you hate because of a specific game design? Or like a lot of games in general, why do you hate them? I personally hate MMOs because they all look the same nowadays. You just switch the graphics to another theme and you get the same game. Honestly, it's the same thing. You just had a couple of other features and that's it. Man, I have a game on my mind right now that I have to say, but I'm not going to say it. It's a new MMO that just got out. Anyway, my name's Fluffy the Destroyer, and thank you for watching this video. If you did like it, put a comment, rate, and subscribe. And even if it's negative, go ahead, tell me.